Assalamu alaikum. What's up, my dear students?
আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম। সবাই ভালো?
জি স্যার।
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ স্যার, আপনি ভালো আছেন?
আছি আলহামদুলিল্লাহ। আমি আমাদের ছাত্রদের দোয়া, টিচারদের দোয়া, স্পেশাল কিছু লোকের দোয়া, আমি সবসময় ভালো থাকি ইনশাআল্লাহ। থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ। আচ্ছা, এক হলো যারা অন্তঃসার শূন্য, মানে আমি তুমি, হ্যাঁ, একদম উপরে ফিটফাট, ভিতরে সদরঘাট, ওই জন্য সবার দোয়া নিয়ে বেঁচে আছে এই আর কি, এটা বলতে চাইলাম। আচ্ছা, থ্যাংক ইউ। একটু ইয়ে করে নিলাম, রিফ্রেশ করে নিলাম সবারে। আবার আসার কারণ হলো যে আমাদের সদ্য প্রধান নির্বাহী স্যার, আমাদের সকলের সম্মানিত স্যার আসবেন 7:30টায় ইনশাল্লাহ, কাজে নগরী। আর দু একটা কথা বলে নেই, সেটা হলো যে এই ফর্ম ফিল আপ করতে পারি না, আর কে করতে পারবো এরকম ক্যাপ্টেন কে, কেউ আছে অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স আসবে? আমি মেল ছেড়ে দিয়েছি, নামাজ কালামে আছে।
স্যার, ক্যাপ্টেন।
চলে না, নো প্রবলেম, ইনক্লুডিং ইউ অল ক্যাপ্টেন্স। ক্যাপ্টেন কেন রাখা হয়? ক্যাপ্টেনটা রাখার উদ্দেশ্য হলো যে ডিসিপ্লিন, দ্য ওয়াইজেস্ট, তার মানে দ্য এডুকেশনালিস্ট, দ্য ফিলোসফার্স। মূলত সমাজ বিনির্মাণে এই দুইটা শ্রেণীর গুরুত্ব। আমার কথা শোনা যায়? ইয়াস হাদিয়া?
ইয়েস স্যার, শোনা
স্যার,
যাচ্ছে।
শোনা যায়।
হ্যাঁ, ঠিক আছে। এমনি আনুষঙ্গিক কথা বলি দু একটা, খালি তো এই প্রফেশনাল কথাবার্তা বললে হবে না, অনেক কিছু। তাহলে কি হলো যে the civilization has been created, even also improved by the educationist and the philosopher. আমরা যে শিক্ষা লাভ করতেছি ব্রিটিশদের ইয়েতেই শিক্ষাটা চরম বিকাশ পায়। ইউরোপ, ইনক্লুডিং ইউরোপে আমাদের ইংল্যান্ড, যেটা ইউরোপের সভ্যতাটাই গ্রিক সভ্যতার পরবর্তীতে যে কি বলে সম্প্রসারণ, সেটা হলো ইউরোপের ইয়েতে। তো আদি যেগুলো, সেটা হলো কি, এত মেসেজ, তো যেটা হলো যে সেই অ্যারিস্টটল, সরি, প্রথমে হচ্ছে সক্রেটিস, তারপরে আসলো প্লেটো, তারপরে আসলো অ্যারিস্টটল, তারপরে আসলো আলেকজান্ডার, এরকম গুরু শিষ্য ভাব। পরবর্তীতে সায়েন্স, শিল্প, সভ্যতা, রেনেসা বলে, এগুলো যে আসলো ক্রমান্বয়ে। এখন আপনাদের যে ফুডস, আপনার ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়ালাইজেশন, রেভলিউশন, চতুর্থ বিপ্লব, এই যে অমক, তো যেটা বলা যে এগুলোতে ওই আদি মানুষ যেগুলো, ওনাদের যে কন্ট্রিবিউশনটা, ওইটারই একটা সংস্কার, ইনভেনশন বলে, ডিসকভারি, এবং পরে এটা সিলিনিয়াম এন্ড অলসো দ্য সেটিং, দ্য আপগ্রেডেশন, দ্যাট ইজ কল্ড ইনভেনশন। তো এইভাবে চলে আসতেছে। তো আমার মোদ্দা কথা ছিল এরকম যে শিক্ষাব্রত, শিক্ষাবিদগণ, all concerned of education related, এটারে কি বলা যায়, লাইটিং, আলোত শিক্ষা এক। আরেকটা তো ফিলোসফার, আগে ফিলোসফার ছিল, পরে এডুকেশনালিস্টের ভিতরে বিজ্ঞানিক, সায়েন্টিস্ট, পরে করে, এটা একটা কমন ইয়েতে চলে। যিনি বিজ্ঞানী তিনিও একজন শিক্ষাবিদ, এই জন্য কমন ইয়ে দিলাম। তো যেটা বলা, ওনারা অনেক কিছু বলে গেছে, সেটা কি যে যে আপনি সামাজিকরণে, সোশ্যালাইজেশন, এবং আপনার জীবন বিনির্মাণে কি হতে হবে, একটু স্বতঃস্ফূর্ত থাকতে হবে, সবার সাথে মিলেমিশে থাকতে হবে, হাসি খুশি থাকতে হবে, নিজে ভালো থাকবো, অন্যকে ভালো রাখতে হবে, চেষ্টা করতে হবে, এইভাবে ইয়ে করতে হবে। তো আমার মোটো ছিল যে পরীক্ষা হয় না, ফর্ম ফিল আপ হয় না, ফর্ম ফিল আপ করতে পরীক্ষা দিতে পারবো কিনা আমরা, সে ইয়ে কিনা, কি বলে, এলিজিবল স্টুডেন্টস কিনা, আমরা পরীক্ষা দিব কিনা, এই কত কি ছিল আমাদের এই রানিং ব্যাচের। তো মাশাআল্লাহ, আল্লাহর রহমতে সবাই এখন পরীক্ষা দিতে পারতেছে। অথরিটিকে ধন্যবাদ। এবং আমরা যে এডুকেশন স্টুডেন্ট অ্যাফেয়ার্স থেকে যেগুলো করি, এগুলোর প্রতি আমাদের এটাতে বলবো যে কি বলবো, এটারে আমাদের সদা সহায় সব সময় আমরা মূল্যায়ন করে। মেইল দিচ্ছে রাজশাহী থেকে, আমি রাজশাহী পরীক্ষা দিব, আমি কিছুই করি নাই, গতকালকে সব বন্ধ, দিলাম ওনাদের পরীক্ষা থেকে যাতে রিকমেন্ড। হ্যাঁ, অনেকের ক্লাস এলিজিবিলিটি হয়তো একটু হবে, সবগুলো চালু রাখেন, 22 তারিখ পর্যন্ত ক্লাস মিস করেন না, সবাই পরীক্ষা দিতে পারবেন যারা এনরোল করছেন। আমরা রিকমেন্ড করবো ইনশাআল্লাহ ক্লাসটা 60% এর নিচে না নামলে ভালো, তারপরেও ইনশাআল্লাহ দেখা যাবে। এই গেল। তাহলে পরীক্ষা আমি ফর্ম ফিল আপ করতে পারিনি, প্যাস অথবা রেগুলার এরকম তো আর কোনো ইস্যু নাই যতদূর ধারণা। রেজাল্ট আপনার শিডিউল it has been finalized on, ইনশাআল্লাহ ধারণা করেন 12 তারিখ ইস্যুড will be issued. হ্যাঁ, তো এই জন্য আপনি ইউ টেক ইউর প্রিপারেশন আর্নেস্টলি and with your great endeavor for doing the well in the exam. কাজেই এক্সামটা যেন আপনি ওভাবে করতে পারেন। হ্যাঁ, একটু লেগে যান। আর একটা বিষয় হলো যে ইউ আর চুজিং অফ সাবজেক্ট, স্পেশালি 1, 2, 3 and ম্যাক্সিমার আর এক্সাম টেট গুলো তো বেশি। তো এতে একটা হয়ে যাবে কি পরবর্তীতে একটা and it will take time to complete whole the courses, 17টা সাবজেক্ট এক্সামশন পান বা এই। কথা যেটা হলো যে পরীক্ষা একটু বেশি করে পড়তে হয়, পরীক্ষা বেশি দিতে হয়, that those will help you to cover. And if you are to sit for the exam, it is actually not assumed by you that you will be doing good further, also cut all the subjects or unsuccessful thereof too. অর্থাৎ আপনি এইভাবে ইয়ে করতে পারবেন না যে আমি পরীক্ষা দিলাম আর আমি পাশ করে গেলাম, অথবা আমি পরীক্ষা খারাপ দিলাম আমি পাশ করব। 5টা 7টা দিলে দেখা যায়, আমরাও তো ছাত্র ছিলাম, এখন তো একটু কাজকর্ম করি। হ্যাঁ, তো যেটা বলার, আমরা পরীক্ষা দিয়ে what we hope and also found in practical কিছু ডিফার থাকে, ভালোটা কিছু দেখা গেল নাম্বার একটু কম পড়ে, এবং যেটা মিডিয়াম পড়ে ওটা আবার বেশি হয়ে গেছে। So here is my regionally consequent for consideration all of you in future. You will consider these sequences or facts for your initiative or permission. Sir, thank you, sir.
স্যার
স্যার
অগ্রিম
আসসালামু
ঈদের
আলাইকুম।
শুভেচ্ছা রইল স্যার।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম। স্যার শুরু করেন স্যার, দয়া করে।
স্যার অগ্রিম ঈদের শুভেচ্ছা রইল স্যার।
হ্যাঁ, ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ। ঈদ মোবারক টু অল। আল্লাহ হাফেজ। একটু সিনোপসিসটা ছাত্র ছাত্রী ভাই বোনরা একটু সামনে আমরা দেখি, তাহলে ভালো হবে, একটু সামনে রাখি। অথবা হ্যাঁ, সাদিয়া, ঈদ মোবারক। থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাডাম and সিস্টার দুইটাই। আল্লাহ হাফেজ। স্যার শুরু করা যাবে স্যার, প্লিজ। আদাব স্যার।
Okay, so let us start with the session. So we had 2 or 3 sessions with you before, and I hope this is the handout. although the handout contains only the sections and the titles of the section. So I'm not sure whether you have gone through it. That means all the sections or not, but we can discuss one by one. And the number one issue is Section 75 of Income Tax Ordinance 1984. So what is Section 75? Any idea about Section 75 Ordinance 1984? Section 75 means you have to submit the return if your total income exceeds the general exemption limit. If your total income exceeds the general exemption limit, you are supposed to submit the return. And Section 75 is the 30th day of November of the assessment year. That means 30th day of November is the last day by which you can submit the return. Submit the return before 30th day of November, starting from the first day of July. That means the first day of the assessment year. And the last date of submission of the return is the 30th day of November, which is called tax day. You know about the tax day. So 30th November is the tax day. Earlier, 15 September was the tax day. And again, it was shifted to 30th September. That was the tax day. But nowadays it is 30th November. But the fact is, if the National Board of Revenue wants to shift it to a new date or wants to extend the date, it can extend the date. That is also possible. For example, last year, the date of submission of an individual return was 31st day of December. It was because the pandemic situation prevailed everywhere in Bangladesh. So that's why the date was shifted to 31st day of December. It was just to give some benefits to the businessmen and to the individual taxpayers so that they could prepare themselves well in order to submit the return. And accordingly, they took advantage of the situation. That means they availed of that opportunity, which was an extended date. But generally, it is not extended. It could be extended because of some unavoidable circumstances, natural calamities, etc., war situation, whatever it is. So in that case, it could be extended. So if you look at section 75, it means that whenever your total income exceeds the general exemption limit, you have to submit the return. So the figure is given in the Finance Act, and it was 3 lakhs of taka. That means 3 lakhs of taka. Up to that amount, it was exempted from tax. But if it exceeded that amount, you needed to submit the return showing the income. 75 means just after the income year. The income year ends on the 30th day of June. For example, 30th day of June of 2021. So that was the end of the income year, 1st day of July 2021. And you could submit the return on the 1st day of July or any other day, but before the 30th day of November. So that was the provision. But one can actually apply for extension of the date. You are an individual associate. You can apply to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes for extension of. You can also apply again to the DCT, but this time the DCT cannot grant you an extension. He will just send it to the Inspecting Joint Commissioner of Taxes or Inspecting Additional Commissioner of Taxes. And if the Inspecting Joint Commissioner or the Inspecting Additional Commissioner approves of it in writing, then the DCT would be able to extend the date. And the Inspecting Joint Commissioner can also extend the date by 2 months. So in all, you can get your date of submission of the return extended by 4 months. That means from 30th day of November, you have to submit it within 4 months' time. That is December, January, February, and March. You can submit it by March. That is possible. And you can also avail of the benefit of universal self-assessment scheme. That means during that extended period, you would be able to submit your return under the universal self-assessment scheme. So that you should keep it in mind. Okay. Then, if the SSC, that means the individual taxpayer, has not submitted the return within the tax day, what he has to do, he can just submit the return after the tax day. That is also possible. But that return would not be treated as a return under the self-assessment scheme. Rather, it will be treated as a return under normal procedure. That is, it will be treated as a normal return. And what is the characteristic of a normal return? A normal return means a return which is submitted to the DCT, after which a notice under section 79 and a notice under section 83(1) would be issued to the individual associate. Maybe notice under section 80 would also be issued to the associate. And a hearing would be held. That means the associate will be heard by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. And he has to produce books of accounts, bank statements, vouchers, day book, daily register, sales book, purchase book, stock register, whatever it is. All those could be needed by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. That means he would require the associate to submit all those papers before him in order for him to examine all the books of accounts appropriately. So that is the characteristic of normal return. And when a normal return is submitted, the notices under section 79 and 83(1), those are generally issued because the associate would be called for hearing. And he has to produce other papers which are not submitted along with the return. So that's why these notices are also very important. Okay. If the associate does not submit the return himself. That is, if he does not submit the return spontaneously, it means that he is not submitting the return on his own. So after the tax day has expired, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, if he thinks that he will ask the associates to submit their returns, he can issue a notice under section 77. That means section 77 would require the associate to submit the return when the tax day has expired. So from the first day of December, after the tax day has expired, from the first day of December, the DCT can issue a notice under section 77 asking the assessee to submit the return for the relevant assessment year. Okay. And the DCT can issue the notice under section 77 up to the end of the assessment year. So that might be a question. You may be asked to answer that question. Up to how long the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would be able to issue a notice to the assessee under section 77? That might be a question. So the answer would be
2 months, sir.
the notice under section 77 taxes from the day following the tax day and up to the end of the assessment year. The assessment year will come to an end on the 30th day of June. That means the assessment year for 21-22 that started from first day of July 2021 and it has ended on 30th day of June 2022. So the DCT can issue a notice under section 77 up to the end of the assessment year. Okay. Now, the assessment year has expired. What the DCT will do? Can the DCT issue a notice under section 77 asking the associate to submit the return? No. The answer is no. We cannot. We cannot issue a notice under section 77 asking the associate to submit the return for the relevant assessment year. So that's why, what should he do? What is the provision?
I have to apply to the DCT, sir, for extension of time with the prayer.
So what you have said is that the DCT should issue a notice under which section then?
'77, sir.
When the assessment year is expired, in that case, the DCT can issue a notice under section 93, that is 93(1), asking the assessee to submit the return because he did not submit the return and the assessment was not completed. So if these two conditions are fulfilled, these two conditions are needed to take into account by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. The first condition is that the assessee has not submitted the return under section 75 or 77, and then the assessment has not been completed. Assessment has not been completed means you should understand this well. If the assessee has not submitted the return, assessee has not submitted whether assessment could still be completed by the DCT or not? So that is the question. And the answer is yes. Even if the SSC has not submitted the return and assessment not been completed, in that case, notice under section 93 could be issued. The two conditions you must know. One condition is the SSC has not submitted the return, and second condition is assessment has not been completed. But my question was, if the return has not been submitted, whether assessment could be completed by the DCT? Answer is yes. The assessment could be completed by the DCT, although the return has not been submitted by the SSC. So how? It will depend on the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. He can make the assessment on the basis of the past record. He can say that, okay, I have issued a notice under section 77, or I issued a notice, but the SSC did not turn up. That means he did not submit the return. So I just make the assessment under section 84. Means best judgment assessment. So the basis of his assessment would be the previous assessment. Previous assessment means the last assessment which he made for the concerned assessment year. And there are records, of course. He has got a file and he has got some records of income of the SSC, from what source the SSC was deriving incomes and what was the assessed income in the previous year. So if the income is from his business and this year the income from the business can be calculated in line with the income. It was calculated like 50 lakhs in the previous year. Now it could also be calculated for the same figure. There is no problem with that, but it should be in line with the income assessed by the DCT in the previous year. You should keep it in mind. Okay. Now the important thing what we will be discussing, who should submit the return? An individual who has crossed the limit of the general exemption, that is 3 lakh taka, for example, he will submit the return to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, showing sources of income in the return. This is the number one. Number two, a person who has got a TIN number. If you have a TIN number, you have to submit the return. If you own a motor car, you should submit a return. If you own an apartment or a building in any of the city corporations of Bangladesh, then you have to submit the return. If you are a director of a private company, you are to submit the return. If you had submitted the return in any 3 years, preceding the income year. If you say that, okay, I don't have any income, whatever it is, but still you have to submit the return. So These are the conditions actually. Who should submit the return? And let us see what section 75 says. Section 75 says that if the total income of the person during the income year exceeds the maximum amount that is not chargeable to tax under this ordinance. So same thing what I have said to you already. That means if you cross the limit of general exemption, then you have to submit a return. So here it has been said that the maximum amount that is not chargeable, same thing. But you should know one term, that is general exemption limit. Sometimes you will be asked what a general exemption limit is. You can say that general exemption limit is the amount which is not taxable, the maximum amount which is not taxable. And if that amount is more than the threshold, then it would be treated as taxable income. But otherwise, it will be treated as general exemption limit. In our case here, it is 3 lakhs taka. If your income is up to taka 3 lakhs, then it is the general exemption limit. You don't have to submit the return. Then it is said if such person was assessed to tax for any of the 3 years immediately preceding the income year. So what is the income year? We have cited an example here. Income year is 2021. So if you are assessed to tax during any one of the 3 years preceding the income year. So 21, 22, this is the income year, let us suppose. And if you are assessed to tax before that income year, that means 2019, 2020, or 2018, 2019. So if you were assessed to tax during those years, any one of those years, then you have to submit the return. Although you do not have any return for the concerned income year, but still then you have to submit the return showing your nil income in the assessment year. If the person is a company or a non-government organization registered with NGO Affairs Bureau. So person, what is a person? You should know the person. Person does not mean an individual only. In the language of income tax, the person is an inclusive definition. Person includes an individual, a firm, an association of persons, a company, a local authority, a fund, and maybe any other artificial juridical person. So definition of person has to be looked into. So if you go to section 2, that is the definition section, and if you look for person there, you will find the definition of person. And it is mentioned there who the persons are. So in that definition, company is also a person, and a non-government organization registered with NGO Affairs Bureau. That means non-government organization, NGO, what we call NGO. The NGO Affairs Bureau, there is a bureau like that, and these are registered with the bureau. So when an NGO is registered with the bureau, it is also to submit the return as a person. A cooperative society, that is also supposed to submit the return. A firm Firm is also supposed to submit the return. An association of persons, that is when there are members of the association, but their shares are not ascertainable. And shareholder director or a shareholder employee of a company, they are also supposed to submit return. A partner of a firm is also supposed to submit a return. An employee of the government or an authority, corporation, body, or units of the government, they are also supposed to submit the return. Then an employee holding an executive or a management position in the business or profession is also supposed to submit the return. The microcredit organization having license with microcredit regulatory authority. So microcredit organization means those organizations which are extending small loans to individuals or SMEs, etc. Those are microcredit license holders, and they are controlled by the microcredit regulatory authority, and it is headed by a vice chairman. He is the person who controls the microcredit organizations. A non-resident having permanent establishment in Bangladesh, if there is any non-resident and he has got a permanent establishment in Bangladesh, definitely he has to submit a return. So it is also said here, if the person at any time during the relevant income year fulfills any of the following conditions, namely owns a motor car or owns a membership of a club registered under any law governing value-added tax, or runs a business or profession having trade license from a city, corporation, a poroshava or union porishad, registered with professional body as a doctor, dentist, lawyer, chartered accountant, cost and management accountant, etc. All these people are supposed to submit return. Has registered with the board as an income tax practitioner. That means we call ITP. If there is a person who practices income tax and who was registered with the National Board of Revenue, in that case, he is to submit a return. As a membership of a Chamber of Commerce and Industries or a trade association or body. If you are a member of a Chamber of Commerce or any trade association, then you are to submit the return. And again, if you run for an office of any Poroshaba, city corporation, or a member of parliament, that means if you want to contest in the election of the parliament, election of the Poroshaba, election of the city corporation, etc. So in that case, you have to submit a return. Participates in a tender floated by the government, semi-government, autonomous body, or local authority. If you want to participate in a tender floated by the government, semi-government, or autonomous body, yes, you have to submit a return. Serves in the board of directors of a company or a group of companies. So if you serve as a director of a company or a group of companies, maybe in the private sector, still then you have to submit the return. Participates in a shared economic activities by providing motor vehicles, space, accommodation, or any other assets. Shared economic activities by providing motor vehicles, space, accommodation, or any other assets. So that means Uber, say for example, if you participate in the Uber system by providing a car or 2 cars or 3 cars, whatever it is. So this is shared economic activity. shared economic activities. So owns any licensed arms. If you have any licensed arms, that means you have a gun or you have a revolver, like that. So in that case also you have to submit a return. And if such person is required to have 12-digit taxpayers identification number under section 84A. So if you need to have a 12-digit taxpayers identification number, then you have to submit a return. This is to be considered under section 84A. Okay. But you have got some exceptions here. A return of income under subsection 1 shall not be mandatory. It is not mandatory for some organizations. Number one, an educational institution receiving government benefits under monthly pay order system. So in case of institution having benefits from the government under MPO, that means monthly pay order, in that case, it is not supposed to submit the return. Public university, which are actually government funded, those universities are not also supposed to submit the return, or a fund. And in case of a fund, it is not mandatory. And then non-resident, not being a non-resident individual, having no permanent establishment in Bangladesh. So if there is one non-resident person and he does not have any, he is not supposed to submit return. A non-resident individual having no fixed income in Bangladesh. If you are a non-resident individual in Bangladesh and you don't have any fixed income here, in that case also you are not supposed to submit a return. Or any class of persons which the board by an order in official gazette exempt from filing the return. Now the board has got the authority to exempt a class of persons from submitting the return. Board may do that. If the board is satisfied that this group of persons or a group is not supposed to submit the return because they don't have taxable income, that situation, the board may issue an order. So according to that order, the group of persons or a group will not be submitting their returns. And again, an individual assessee who has no taxable income, but who is required to have 12-digit taxpayer's identification number under section 184A, selling a land. If you want to sell a land, you have got a land, you have owned a land maybe which was purchased by you before, or you have inherited a piece of land from your father or from your mother. Now you want to sell it out. So in that situation, you have to have a TIN number, 12-digit tax identification number. But you have done it because you need to produce it before the registrar or sub-registrar. Otherwise, you will not register it. So that's why you have taken or obtained the TIN number. And in that case, you are exempted for submitting the return. You don't have to submit the return. An individual assessee who has no taxable income, but who is required to have 12-digit taxpayer's identification number under section 84A for obtaining a credit card. So if you need to have a credit card, you obtain a 12-digit identification, tax identification number. In that case also, you don't have to submit the return mandatorily. Okay, so these are the conditions that you have to submit the return, sometimes mandatorily, sometimes not mandatorily, and the associates have been classified who are supposed to submit the return and who are not. Okay. Uh, one important point to remember under section 75 is that you should know this because there might be a question from this subsection, and the subsection is 75.5. Whenever a government servant or government official or an official of the autonomous body or a corporation who goes abroad for higher education on deputation or on lien, and if the deputation is granted by the government or the lien is granted by the government, in that circumstances, he goes abroad. Maybe, for example, he has gone to the UK for doing master's program, and he has spent there 2 years. So during that period, he was also receiving income from the government as salary, but he did not submit the return because of his absence in Bangladesh. So in that circumstances, what he would do, he would come back to Bangladesh after 2 years, that is after finishing his degree, and then he can submit the return at a time for 2 years. That is also possible. And in that circumstance, uh, he does not have to face any liability. That means no delay interest would be charged on his income, or he is not penalized in any way. Penalized means he has not submitted the return on the tax day or before the tax day, and even not during the assessment year. So he is exempted from all those penalties. Whenever he comes back to Bangladesh, he has to submit the return within 3 months' time from the day of his arrival in Bangladesh. So he can submit his returns for 2 years at a time without having any liability to meet up. So this is under section 75.5. So sometimes this is important. So here in section 75 says 75.5, provided that an individual being government official engaged in higher education or training or deputation or leave or employed under lien outside Bangladesh shall file return or returns for the period of such deputation or lien at a time within 3 months from the date of his return to Bangladesh. So what I have said to you before, you can just remember this subsection. And if you are asked to answer this question, that under which section the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would be able to extend the date of submission of the return to an individual. What is the section? Or in which section the power has been given to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes? They may mention subsection or they may mention section, whatever it is. So this is actually subsection 6 of section 75. You should remember this one. The last date for the submission of the return for a person may be extended by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes upon the application by the person to the prescribed in the prescribed form. provided that the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes may extend the date up to 2 months from the date so specified, and he may further extend the date up to 2 months with the approval of the inspecting joint commissioner of taxes. So here subsection 6 of section 75 has given the power to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes to extend the date. So first case, he can extend the date up to 2 months, but if he wants to extend it further, then he has to take the approval of the inspecting joint commissioner for another 2 months. So in all, the SSC could be extended the date of submission of the return for 4 months only, after the tax day, of course. Okay, this is more or less the section 75. So here in the first question, small question there, and we have answered all the questions here. Who is to submit the return? We have discussed it. When to submit the return? We have also discussed it. Generally on the 30th day of November, that is a tax day, or before the tax day, or during the extended time. Whether time could be extended? Yes, it could be extended under subsection 6, subsection 75. By whom the time would be extended? First of all, the DCT would extend the time, and again, for the second time, it could be extended by the inspecting joint commissioner of taxes. What is the liability to avail of time extension? If there is a time extension, liability is that you can still avail the benefit of the self-assessment scheme. But only thing is that when there is a difference between the amount of tax you have paid and also the required amount you have to pay. So there might be a difference between the two. And in that case, you have to pay the delay interest, and that cannot be escaped. Delay interest has to be paid on the difference money, and at the rate of 2% per month that you have to pay. So these all questions are answered. And then section 77. If you do not have any question on that, then we move to section 77. I just focused on section 77 and said about issuance of notice under section 77, because when the assessment year is expired, actually not assessment year, when the tax day has expired, then from the day following the tax day, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes is authorized to issue a notice under section 77 asking the SSC to submit his or her return. And he can issue the notice up to the end of the assessment year. That means the 30th day of assessment year. And generally, a notice is issued specifying the date. The return has to be submitted by the SSC. So SSC is required to submit the return by the date specified in the notice under section 77. The notice could be issued, but SSC may not comply with the notice. If the SSC does not comply with the notice, in that case, the DCT can make the assessment on his own. So in the absence of the SSC, or in the absence of production of documents, vouchers, bills, day book, daily register, etc., the DCT can complete the assessment. So this is about 77. And then section 78. It is all about filing revised return. Revised return means whenever you find an error, that means a mistake in the return you have already submitted. It could be a self-assessment return or a normal return, whatever it is. In both cases, you can submit the revised return. Whenever you detect any error or you detect any mistake which was committed by the SEC. So revised return could be submitted to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, and on the basis of the revised return, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes can hear you and he can ask you to produce the documents relating to the income or in support of the income you have shown in the revised return. So afterwards, when the hearing is complete, the DCT will finalize the assessment and issue necessary papers to you, including the assessment order, that is IT 88, and also the demand notice and challan, if there is any. So that is the usual system of 78. So let us see what is said. '70 says about filing of revised return. Any person who has not filed a return as required by section 75 or 77, or who, having filed return, discovers any omission or incorrect statement therein, may, without prejudice to any liability which he may have incurred on this account, file a return or a revised return, as the case may be, at any time before the assessment is made. So whenever you haven't submitted the return under section 75 or 77, or you have filed the return, but you have found out some mistake in the return. So that's why you can submit a revised return before the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, but it is without prejudice to any liability or face any liability does not involve penalty. Now, section 79, what is said in section 79? The section actually involves the hearing to be made by the DCT. Whenever a return is submitted by the SEC under the self-assessment scheme, there is no provision for issuance of a notice under section 79. That is not needed. Whenever you are calculating your own income, you are determining the tax, what you have to pay according to the rate of tax provided in the Finance Act, and you submit the return along with the necessary relevant documents, necessary or relevant documents. So in that way, there is no question that the DCT will issue a notice under section 79. What he will do, he will just accept the return, or somebody on behalf of the DCT will accept the return and issue you a receipt. And that receipt would be treated as an assessment order. So it means that it is not an elaborate assessment order. Rather, whatever you have submitted, that is the assessment order under the seal of the circle, which is reflected in the receipt. However, what you can do, you can obtain a certified copy of the return you have submitted along with the documents. After payment of certain amount of money as copying fee. So whenever you submit a return under the self-assessment scheme, it is advisable that you obtain a copy of the return you have submitted, so which is called certified copy. Certified copy means it will be a true copy, but it will be certified by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So whenever you have got a certified copy, it means that you submitted the returns to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. He accepted it, and then he has issued a certified copy. This is needed sometimes for the SSC. So you never forget to do that when you have submitted the return under the self-assessment scheme. But whenever you have submitted a return under the normal scheme, that is, it is a normal rate. The city will not accept, normally will not accept the return you have submitted. So he will just compare the return with the return you submitted in the previous year. So if he finds a difference between the two, then he will definitely issue a notice under section 79. But here you can ask me one question, and it could be a question in the examination as well. So whenever an SSC submits a return under the normal assessment scheme, or he submits a normal return, whether it is possible to be assessed by the DCT under section 82, that means as it is, whatever income you have shown, that is accepted by the DCT. So whether this is possible or not, that might be a question. I would like to say that this is possible. The assessment could be completed under section 82, because if the DCT thinks that the income that has been shown by the SSC in the return for this assessment year is no less than the income shown by him in the previous assessment year, so he can accept it. So he has got the discretionary power to accept it. Sometimes it happens to the cases of individual SSCs who are working with various organizations. That means they are salaried employees. So if they are salaried employees, it means that they have submitted a return showing the total income along with the certificate of salary or the bank statement. So if the SSC submits a return along with the salary certificate from the employer, and a bank statement is also submitted along with that, in that case, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes can accept it as it is. That means he will not go for hearing. He will not ask the SSC to appear before him with other documents. So that will be a waste of time on the part of the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So whenever he thinks like is in line with the income shown in the previous year, and since the SSC is an employee of a company, he has got a salary certificate, and there is no chance that the salary certificate could be different from previous years. It might be a little bit change in because of the any verified accounts, that is, there is no audit report, or he has not submitted books of accounts or bank statements, whatever they are. In that case, the DCT will not accept it. Generally, what we see is that whenever a return is submitted by the assessor for any assessment year, it is just made uh, on an estimated basis. Estimated basis means a statement is prepared, and in that statement, the assessee mentions about the sale. Sale is estimated like this, GP is like this, and net profit is like this, something like that. So there is no elaboration about the incomes earned by him, and he does not produce vouchers or other documents or bank statements or debut, daily register, etc., etc. In that circumstance, of course, the DCT will not accept the return under Section 82. Rather, he will issue a notice under Section 79 and later on under Section 83(1). And after hearing, that means maybe the assessee would be asked to appear before the DCT twice or thrice, whatever it is. And after the completion of hearing, he will make an assessment. The final assessment would be made by him and issued to the DCT. So what is all about, Section 79? What is said there? So Section 79 is the production of accounts and documents. The Deputy Commissioner of Taxes may, by notice in writing, require an assessee who has filed a return under Chapter 8 or to whom a notice has been issued to file a return. So in both circumstances, when the assessee has submitted a return, notice under Section 79 could be issued, or whenever he has not submitted the return, a notice under subsection 79, the Section 79 could also be issued. Okay, issued to file a return to produce or cost to produce such accounts, statements, documents, data, or electronic records not being earlier than 3 years prior to the income year, as he may consider necessary for the purpose of audit or assessment under this ordinance. So the DCT can ask for documents, data, electronic record, etc. for the relevant income year. Not only that, but also for the income years prior to that. So what is said here? 3 years prior to the income year. So he can call for those records as well if needed. The Deputy Commissioner of Taxes may specify in the notice that the account statements, documents, data, or electronic records or any part thereof shall be produced in such electronic form or by such electronic media as may be mentioned in the notice. So it should be specified by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes what types of documents would be required to be submitted by the assessor. Maybe in electronic form, maybe not. But whatever it is, everything has to be specified in the notice under Section 79. You have to mention number 1, number 2, number 3, what you need. The account statements, documents, data, or electronic records shall be produced on or before the date as may be specified in the notice. So whenever a notice under Section 79 is issued by the DCT, there should be a specific date mentioned in the notice by which the information or the documents or the accounts have to be submitted. It is generally 21 days. 21 days is given by the DCT. Within that period, the assessee has to submit all those documents or vouchers, whatever they are. Okay. In this section, return includes the revised return or an amended return. So whenever a return has been submitted, it might also include a revised return. So the same thing, the DCT will accept it. And whatever the associate submitted, whether it is the original return or the revised return, does not matter, but he could be issued a notice under section 79. Data includes upatto as defined in clause 10 of section 2 of Totho Jogajog Prajukti Ain 2006. So here data, the definition has been given here, but this is according to the Totho Jogajog Prajukti Ain 2006. Whatever has been mentioned about data, this data has to be referred to. That means income tax ordinance also accept has been given under Totho Jogajog Prajukti Ain 2006. Electronic record or electronic form shall have the same meaning as assigned to electronic record and electronic binnash, respectively, in clauses 7 and 5 of section 2 of Totho o Jogajog Prajukti Ain 2006. So electronic record or electronic form, whatever have been mentioned in the Totho or Jogajog Prajukti Ain would also apply here. So same thing, definition would remain the same. So this is all about your notice under section 79. Now you have understood why notice under section 79 have to be issued, because the returned income is not acceptable in the absence of the books of accounts, documents, vouchers, etc. So that's why the DCT would like to examine the books of accounts in order to accept the income. So if there are documents and in support of the income, and if it could be proved well, in that case, the income shown by the SOC would be accepted by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. Otherwise, the income would be enhanced. So that's the thing why section 79 is needed. Any question up to now? Do you have any question to ask?
স্যার আমার একটা তথ্য জানার ছিল স্যার।
Okay, then if you don't have any question, in that case, we can move to section 80. Section 80. Section 80 of the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. It is all about submission of the statement of assets and liabilities. So an individual is supposed to submit the statement of assets and liabilities. Sometimes you will hear wealth statement, the same thing. Statement of assets and liabilities means the wealth statement. Sometimes this is called IT10B. So if somebody says IT10B, it's also the same thing. So that's a technical term, and it is very common among the income tax people, among the lawyers, among the income tax practitioners, and also among the income tax authorities. So section 80 is statement of assets and liabilities. It means it is a statement including the assets of the SOC and the liabilities of the SOC. And another point is there, in that form, you will find the yearly expenditure or the family expenditure of the SOC, the number of dependents, etc. So these are the information you have to provide to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes in the statement of assets and liabilities. So you can show, if you have a business, your business capital has to be shown here. Also, the assets you have actually procured or purchased or inherited, those have to be shown here. If you have purchased one piece of land at taka 50 lakhs, yes, you have to show it. Or if you have inherited a piece of land from your father, you can also show it, but you cannot show the cost because you did not buy it, rather you got it through inheritance. So the value should not be known. You will just write that value is not known, but you should mention the date of inheritance. That means the year in which you inherited it. Okay. Then there might be shares and securities you have bought with your income. There might be bank account. There might be cash in hand. There might be other instruments like savings certificate or maybe pension certificate, maybe family sanchaya patra, something like that. All these documents have to be included. And you have given a loan to somebody, an individual or your friend or your relative, etc. So whenever you have given loan to somebody, it means that it is your asset. You will recover it in future. So you can also mention about it, and it will be included in the asset side of the wealth statement. And then the liability side of the wealth statement, it includes all the liabilities. That means liabilities to the bank, liabilities to house building finance corporation, or liabilities to individuals, etc. So the total liabilities and the total assets. So you can calculate the total liabilities and the total assets. And you can also find out the net asset or net wealth. You can also say net wealth, or you can say net asset. Same thing. So whenever you calculate net asset or net wealth, it means that you are deducting total liabilities from the total assets. Then you find uh, net liability, net wealth or net asset. So this is important for you to understand why it has to be shown and it has to be taken into account by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. It is important because when you have purchased assets and you have incurred some liabilities and you have spent an amount of money for the livelihood, so this will indicate the income generated by you. That means your expenditure or your investment cannot exceed the income generated by you. But if they exceed the income, it means that you have got some other sources of income which have not been shown by you in the return. If you say that, okay, I have got an income of taka 20 lakhs during the income year, concerned income year, but if the DCT finds that your investment plus the expenditure, they exceed the income shown by you, that is 20 lakhs taka, it means that your income which you have shown is not sufficient enough to cover the investment and the expenditure. So you have got some other sources of income. And if you cannot specify that, or if it could not be identified, in that case, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would treat that income, that is additional income which has covered your expenditure return. Rather, it is an additional source of income that you did not show. So this is important from the viewpoint of assessment or from the viewpoint of the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. And now how to do it? How the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes arrive at the decision that you have got some income from other source, how he would calculate it. So let us suppose the assessment year 21-22. So for that assessment year, you submitted the wealth statement, and in that wealth statement, you showed your liability at taka 50 lakhs and your asset at taka 50 lakhs and your liability at taka 10 lakh. What happens? Your net worth is 40 lakhs in this assessment year, and your expenditure, family expenditure, it took 10 lakhs. So 40 lakhs net wealth, 10 lakhs your expenditure. These are the two figures. And again, if we move to the previous year means 2021. In that year, if your asset was worth taka 40 lakhs and your liability was worth taka 10 lakh, then your net wealth was taka 30 lakhs. This year, we have seen that the net wealth is taka 40 lakhs, and for the previous year, it was taka 30 lakhs. What is the difference between the two? Difference between the two net wealths, 30 lakh and 40 lakh. That means this year, your net wealth is higher than the previous years by 10 lakh taka. So 10 lakh taka, this is called accretion. So there is an accretion in the net wealth of the SSC by an amount of taka 10 lakh. And at the same time, we calculated that the expenditure of the SSC was taka 10 lakhs. So your accretion in the net wealth is taka 10 lakh plus the expenditure you have incurred during the year. So 10 lakh plus 10 lakh, 20 lakh. This 20 lakh taka has to be covered by the income you have earned for this assessment year. So if your income is 20 lakh taka, then it is fine. There is no question. The DCT will accept it. But if your income is not taka 20 lakhs, rather your income is taka 15 lakh, under that circumstances, the DCT will ask for an explanation from you. So you have to explain that taka 5 lakh was your additional income, or you got taka 5 lakh from any other source, or from your as a gift from your spouse or from your father-in-law, mother-in-law, father, whatever it is, as a gift, etc. So you have to explain it properly. And if the explanation given by you to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes is satisfactory, in that case, the DCT will accept it. Otherwise, he will not accept it. He will add it to the total income. That is 5 lakh has to be added to the total income. So that is the reason why the accretion has to be calculated and expenditure has to be added to that. And after that, the DCT will find out how much income yes he has earned, and that way he can calculate if there is any income which is not shown by the SSC under a specific source.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now the question is, when you have to submit the wealth statement, you are not supposed to submit the wealth statement all the time. A question can come or could be set in the examination, whether submission of wealth statement is mandatory every year for all the SSCs, individual SSCs or not. The answer should be, it is not. It is not mandatory on the part of all the individual SSCs to submit the statement of assets and liabilities. Then the question may be set in the examination. If the SSC wishes to submit wealth statement, although he is not supposed to do it mandatorily, whether he can do it or not. The answer should be yes. Although the SSC is not supposed to submit the wealth statement mandatorily each year, he can do it if he wishes to. That means he can voluntarily submit the wealth statement if he likes to. There is no bar to that. What does it indicate? It indicates that if your income is not up to a certain level or does not cross a certain level, still then you can submit the wealth statement along with the return. So when your gross wealth exceeds 40 lakhs taka, in that case, you are to submit the wealth statement mandatorily. Okay. So if your gross wealth does not exceed 40 lakh taka, you are exempted from submitting the wealth statement under section 18. And again, I have said to you that the SSC can submit the wealth statement, although he is not supposed to submit the wealth statement mandatorily. Now you can ask me a question. Then why should I submit the wealth statement voluntarily, although I am not supposed to submit it mandatorily? My gross wealth has not exceeded 40 lakhs. But why I should submit it? What is the reason? Or what would be the benefit for me in future? So you have to know it. Why? Or you have to give arguments. While you will be practicing as a chartered accountant, you can actually advise your client. If he's a salaried person, you can advise him that even if you are not supposed to submit the wealth statement, but still you can submit it before the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes voluntarily. But that will bring you some benefits. What are the benefits? Let us suppose you are an employee of a company, a new employee, I should say, and your salary is at this moment, say for example, 50,000 taka per month. But if we calculate the total income, it is not taxable. So 50,000 taka per month, it means that your income per year would be 6 lakhs taka. Although a part of it is not taxable, like house rent allowance or conveyance allowance or medical allowance, whatever it is, it could be segregated into different segments. And if the income does not exceed the taxable limit, that is general exemption limit, that in that circumstances, you are not supposed to submit the wealth statement. Your gross wealth has not crossed the limit of 40 lakhs taka. But still you are submitting the wealth statement. The reason being, as I have said to you, you are earning 50,000 taka per month and 6 lakhs taka per year. And you are living in a shared accommodation, maybe with other staff members of the same company, and you are also sharing the food. That means you have got a common kitchen, and cooking is actually done for the three members of the apartment. That is, two of your colleagues and yourself. So you are also sharing the food. What happens is that when you are living in a shared accommodation and you are sharing food with your colleagues, and you are a bachelor, you are not yet married, and you do not have any family life, so what you can do, you can mention in the wealth statement that my expenditure per month is 20,000 taka only, and the yearly expenditure is 2,40,000 taka. But your art spent 2,40,000 taka out of 6 lakhs taka. Then how much you are saving? I believe 3,80,000 taka. Sorry, 3,60,000 taka you are saving. The remaining part of your salary, out of 6 lakhs, you are spending 2,40,000. So 3,60,000 is saved by you every year. And if you save this amount for 5 years, what is the figure? This is 15 lakhs and 3 lakhs, 18 lakhs taka. After 5 years or at the end of the 5th year, you will have 18 lakhs taka in your hand. That means as you're saving money. If you want to buy an apartment, or if you want to book an apartment, or if you want to buy any other asset or instruments of the government, or whatever it is, then you can utilize that amount of money, which is not questionable. Not questionable means the DCD cannot ask any question because you showed it in the wealth statement. You calculated the expenditure, you incurred, and also the saving. So that saving of taka 18 lakhs per year, sorry, 18 lakhs at the end of 5th year would be treated as your very legal money. And this could help you a lot in buying an asset or an instrument. So here the answer lies. Answer lies means the person concerned, which I am referring to as an employee, he is not supposed to submit the wealth statement, but still he has submitted the wealth statement. He has shown in the wealth statement a figure which is his savings, and that savings would be accumulated. So this is the benefit you will be having by submitting wealth statement, although you are not supposed to mandatorily submit it. It's okay for you? Or not?
Sir, since I have submitted it earlier, then I don't have to submit it in the future, right, sir?
I cannot hear you well.
Sir, since I have already disclosed my wealth, and if I had incurred any tax, I have given it earlier, then I don't have to give it later, right, sir?
And next, I mentioned to you about IT10B, but another issue is there, IT10BB. IT10BB means you have to show your expenditure. And this is a statement of expenditure headwise. Headwise means you have to mention about the electricity charges you have paid. You have to mention the gas charges you have paid. You have to mention the conveyance you have paid, etc., etc. So there would be an elaborate description of the expenditures you have incurred during the income year. So IT10BB. Whenever you are supposed to submit the IT10BB, is that when your income actually exceeds 4 lakh taka, in that case, you are supposed to submit it. Otherwise, you are not supposed to submit it. So that you should
Okay,
keep
thank you,
it
sir.
in mind. That is IT10B, IT10BB is two statements you can submit whenever needed. And Section 80, the DCT can issue a notice under Section 80 whenever you are supposed to submit the wealth statement mandatorily. And if you do not submit, then the DCT will issue a notice under Section 80 asking you to submit the statement of assets and liabilities. So that is for sure, you can do it. And another question may arise. I am thoroughly discussing it. Another question may arise. Let us suppose a question is set in the examination that the SSC is not supposed to submit the wealth statement mandatorily. And he does not have that amount of income or that amount of gross wealth. So under no circumstances, he is supposed to submit the wealth statement or IT10BB. Whether the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes can still issue a notice under Section 80, asking him to submit the wealth statement. This is the question. And what would be your answer? You will not find everything in the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. This is not mentioned there. In IT, if you go through it, you will not find the answer. The DCT can issue a notice under Section 80 asking the SSC to submit the statement of assets and liabilities, although he is not supposed to submit it. Then why and how, or under which circumstances he would be able to do that? Now let us suppose, I just cite an example for this. You are an SSC of Circle X, or let us suppose Circle 10. You are an SSC of Circle 10, and you are an employee of a company. You are not mandatorily required to submit the statement of assets and liabilities because your income is not that high and you do not have gross wealth, which crosses the limit. But the city has gotten information from another circle. Sometimes information is actually communicated from one circle to another circle. This is called information slip. Another DCT who is in charge of another circle, he might send an information slip to his colleague, that is to the DCT under which you are being assessed. Information is that under his jurisdiction, it has been found out that Mr. So-and-so, that means you, own an apartment, or you have inherited an apartment from your father. So if this information comes to the DCT, under whom you are being assessed, he can definitely issue you a notice under section 80 asking you to submit the well statement. That means he wants to see whether you have got an apartment in your name. So whenever a notice has been issued to you, you are now obligated to submit the well statement. But I submitted the return of income. That is okay, that is fine, no problem. But since the information was communicated to the city under which you are being assessed, in that case, he has issued a notice and you have to comply with the notice. And whenever a notice has been issued to you by the city, definitely you have to submit the will statement mentioning all the assets you have. So whenever you have got an apartment, whether it is through purchase or through inheritance, whatever it is, you have to show it. So in that way, the city would be able to determine your income. You will ask for an explanation with regard to the ownership of the apartment. If you say that, okay, I owned it through inheritance, in that case, fine, it's not a problem. The problem is that whether you are earning from that apartment or not. If you earn from that apartment, yes, you have to show the income. But if you say you haven't earned anything from that apartment, rather it has been, she is using it. So in that circumstance, okay, there is no income actually from that apartment. So your income will not be enhanced. There is no rental income or house property income, whatever it is. But if you just keep it under anybody who is paying you tax, sorry, paying you rent, in that case, definitely you have to show the income under section 24. So an income has to be calculated under section 24. So your answer is given. That means also, although you are not supposed to submit the will statement, ask you to submit it under certain circumstances, as I have explained to you. And remember all this whenever you practice as a chartered accountant. So this chapter is over. That is, section 80 is over. But if you have any question to ask, then you can ask me a question. Do you need any break or not? If you need any break, tell me. Any break needed for you? Let's move. And this is on this is section 81 and 84. This section is relating to provisional assessment. Provisional. So this is not final assessment, rather this is a provisional assessment. So when it is needed by the DCP. So a question may come to somebody's mind that what is the quickest way of recovery of taxes? Because the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes has been given a budget by the Commissioner of Taxes, because Commissioner of Taxes is responsible for the overall zone. The overall zone has got a budget. It means that it's to realize that. So that budget is allocated among the cities, different cities. So our DCT is in charge of a circle. So that's why the circle has got a budget to realize. And in order to realize that amount of money, that is the target, the DCT has to dispose of the cases. So in order to dispose of the cases, he has to classify different types of returns submitted before him. So different types of returns means the returns under section 82BB, that means universal self-assessment scheme. Universal self-assessment scheme, it means that the DCT does not have to issue any notice, or he does not the assessee has shown his return and he has accordingly paid taxes on that income. So it means that the income has been accepted by the DCT and the tax has also been realized by the DCT. So he does not have to do anything for realizing the revenue. So this is one classification. Another classification is that there are returns which are submitted under the normal assessment scheme. That means this is not self-assessment returns, rather these are normal returns. So when there is a normal return submitted by the assessee, the DCT has to issue a notice under section 79, then afterwards under section 83.3.2. But there is a risk. What is the risk? The risk is that when the assessment is made by the DCT, this assessment may not be favorable. Sorry, the assessment is made by the DCT, it may not be favorable to the assessee. So whenever the assessee is not satisfied with the order passed by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, what he will do, he will not make the payment of taxes. He will rather prefer an appeal to the appellate joint commissioner or the appellate additional commissioner or the commissioner of taxes against the order made by the DCT. So whenever he prefers an appeal to the appellate joint commissioner or appellate additional commissioner or commissioner of taxes appeals, then it needs some time for the appellate joint commissioner to dispose of the case. And when he disposes of the case, it might be in favor of the assessee or not. So if the appellate joint commissioner is convinced of the arguments given by the assessee in favor of his income, then he can accept all those arguments. Otherwise, he may reject the arguments put forward by the assessee. So under that circumstance, whatever verdict has been given by the appellate joint commissioner, the assessee will still not be satisfied with that order. So what he will do? He will again prefer an appeal against the decision given by the appellate joint commissioner, and he will prefer an appeal to the tribunal. And the tribunal can take a decision now. So tribunal will also take some time. So whenever this cumbersome process is going on, it means that the DCT would not be able to realize the revenue from the assessee within a short period of time. It will take a long time. If there is a dispute, and dispute has to be settled after a reasonable years. And in that circumstance, the revenue collection would be hampered. So that's why it is not very easy to collect taxes from the assessees within a short period of time or within the assessment year. Not possible. That's why what the DCT should do. Since the question was asked like this, what is the quickest way of recovery of taxes by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes? So it is, if the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes completes the assessment under Section 81, that means if he makes provisional assessment under Section 81, then in that way he can recover taxes. Although this is not final assessment will be made later on. But whatever income has been submitted by the SC, the DCT can accept that income. He will say that, okay, this income has been showed by the SSC and we have accepted this income. So the SSC is directed to make the payment of taxes on that income. So sometimes what the SSC has done, applicable to that income. So he will pay less tax. In that case, the DCT will issue a demand notice, and the demand notice will mention the amount of tax to be paid by the SSC. And the positive point here is that the SSC will not be able to prefer an appeal against that order to the appellate joint commissioner because his shown income has been accepted by the DCT. That's why there is no question that he can prefer an appeal. So the demand which is made by the DCT has to be paid off by the SSC. This is under Section 81. So every DCT has to make the provisional assessment and he can realize the taxes, which is very easy for him. But whenever the final assessment is made, so that is made after issuing notices under Section 79 and 83(1). So the normal procedure has to be followed by the DCT, and it will take some time, and there might be some disputes against the assessment order made by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So that's why I would say that the quickest way of recovery of taxes or realization of taxes would be under Section 81. Is it okay for you? Another point you can just understand from this discussion is that the assessment could be made after submission of the return, but not on the first day of July, rather any day after the first day of July. So this is also to be remembered by you. So the income year ends on the 30th day of June, and the SSC can submit the return on the first day of July. And the assessment could be made from the following day. That means from the 2nd of July, the assessment could be made. But here I have got some difference of opinion. And the difference of opinion is that the assessment could also be made on the first day of July. Why from the 2nd of July? There is no point that it should be made on the 2nd of July. So if the income year ends on the 30th day of June, and if the SSC can submit the return on the first day of July, why not? I can make the assessment on the first day of July. It's not a problem at all because I will accept the returned income submitted by the SSC. So you should keep it in mind as the income tax ordinance says that the assessment could be completed after the first day of July. You have to accept that, or you have to write like that in the examination. Okay. So now we can move to Section 82. I mentioned a little bit about Section 82. And Section 82 means that you have submitted a return and the DCT can make the assessment under Section 82 whenever he thinks that the return submitted by the assessee is okay, it's fair, and it cannot be questioned. I am convinced about the income shown by the assessee. This income seems to be reasonable to me. So in that circumstances, the DCT can accept the returned income and make an assessment under section 82. So as I gave you an example before, the example was that wherever an assessee is working with an organization, say for a company, and he submits the return showing his income from salaries along with a certificate issued by the employer, and if it is supported by the employer's certificate, in that case the DCT can accept it if there is no information in his possession that the assessee has got some other sources of income. In that circumstances, 82. Okay. Then section 82 double B. Section 82 double B is universal self-assessment. As I mentioned to you earlier, this is the self-assessment scheme, of course, but assessee would be able to calculate his own income and calculate his own tax as well. And he can submit the return along with the necessary documents needed for supporting his income. And DCT or any officer or any staff member on behalf of the DCT can accept it whenever that is by the taxpayer, or it could be submitted by the extended period of submission of the return. That is also possible. That is 4 months, as we have discussed earlier, 4 months from the day of the tax day, from the date of the tax day. So within that period, this has to be submitted by the assessee, and if a receipt is given to the assessee, it means that that is the assessment order. And as I have told before, that the assessee can certify, that is also possible, and he can keep it in his file in order to show it in future if circumstances demand. So I believe that is the usual way of doing it. However, whenever an assessment has been completed under section 82 double B, it means that the assessee doesn't have to worry about it. But sometimes the National Board of Revenue conducts an audit into the return submitted under 82 double B. It means that they identify some of the returns on a random basis, which is called audit. And under the audit, whenever a return is selected or identified, that return is not accepted under 82 double B. Rather, a notice is issued by the DCT to produce some documents if needed. And this is just to caution the assessors that they have to submit the fair income, or they have to submit the appropriate income, whatever they have earned, and they should not conceal the income, or they should not show lesser income. Actual income has to be shown. So whenever audit is conducted, it means that the assessee will apprehend that my return, although it has been submitted under 82 double B, could fall under the audit scheme conducted by the National Board of Revenue. So if it is under the audit scheme, in that case, notice will be issued, and I have to produce all the documents in support of the income I have shown, and afterwards the assessment will be made. But if it is found out that the documents are correct, that means whatever document has been asked for by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, and the document has been submitted to the city, and there is no change in the income, because the income which has been shown by the SSC is correct as per the document which has been produced by him now, but it was not earlier produced by him. So that's why the city was asking for that as per the following the board's direction. So that could be accepted, and the return assessment could be made under the same section 82BB. So the SSC is not supposed to pay any further tax. So his shown income has been accepted. So this is 82BB. And a question might arise here. The SSC has submitted a return under section 82BB, and the assessment has been completed by the DCT. And whether the SSC is always free from any kind of action to be taken against him by the National Board of Revenue or by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. When return is submitted by me under the universal self-assessment scheme, it is not the income which is not subject to further taxation in future. It is not, because if I conceal any source of income, although I have submitted the return under self-assessment scheme under section 82BB, still that a notice under section 93(1) could be issued to me asking me to submit a from any source with regard to my concealment. In that case, he can issue a notice. But he can issue a notice within 6 years' time. 6 years' time means from the end of the assessment year. Within 6 years' time, he has to issue the notice. So there is a risk. If I do not show income, that means proper income, and that is under section 93(1) by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So that is the section 82BB. Then come to section 83. The 83 is assessment after hearing. Assessment after hearing means wherever you submit the return after under self-assessment, under normal, not under self-assessment. So then the question arises, how to proceed with the assessment. The city is supposed to issue a notice, which the assessment will be completed. But before completing the assessment under section 83(2), he has to issue a notice under section 83(1). And what is 83(1)? You have to go through it in the book. So 83(1) says, where a return or revised return has been filed under Chapter 8 and the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes is not satisfied without requiring the presence of the person who filed the return or the production evidence that the return is correct and complete, he shall serve on such person and notified to appear before the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes or to produce or cause to be produced before him or at his office any evidence in support of the return. So the DCT may require the assessee to appear before him in person, or he can uh, he can think that the return is not correct and complete. So he will serve a notice under this section requiring the assessee in specified to appear before the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes or to produce or cause to be produced before him or at his office any evidence in support of the return. So he can also ask the assessee to produce any evidence which is needed by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes to accept the submitted. This is 83.1. And the section 80.29, which we discussed earlier, there it is not said that the city will require the assessee to appear before him in person. So what we were discussing about 83.1. So you should remember that when 83.1 is issued by the DCT to the SSC, it means that the SSC has to appear before the DCT in person, or he may be required to produce a specific document or evidence in support of his income. That is needed. But we were discussing 79 before, and section 79 says that the DCT can ask for documents, evidences, bank statements, any other accounts, whatever needed by him. And when the SSC has submitted the evidence or document required by the SSC under section 83.1, he can then complete the assessment. Under section 83.2, 83.2 is a section, relevant section for making the assessment. So whenever assessment is made by the DCT, it is said in the assessment order that assessed under section 83.2 on an income of taka, say 20 lakhs for the assessment year so and so, that is 21, 22 or whatever it is. So he will write like that in the assessment order. So specifically, whenever the section has been mentioned, 83.2, it means that the assessment has been completed after hearing. So it was not assessed under any other section, or there is no question that the assessment was not heard. So it means that the assessment was heard and assessment was not made ex parte. Assessment made ex parte means assessment made on the basis of best judgment. That means the absence of the SSC. The assessment has been completed by their DCT on the basis of his best judgment. So 83.2 is this. And most of the assessments are made under section 83.2. But if the SSC has not submitted the return under section 75, then the DCT will mention that the assessment has been completed under section 83.2 slash, that is oblique 77, whenever a notice was issued under section 77. So he will write like that. Or whenever a notice was issued by the DCT under section 93, and afterwards the SSC has submitted the return, in that case, the assessment could be completed under section 83.2, but the DCT will write that the assessment has been completed under section 83.2 slash 93. So it indicates from the assessment order that notice under section 93 was issued to the SSC. And afterwards, he submitted the return. So it is a kind of, non-compliance. Non-compliance in the sense that the SSC did not submit the return under section 75. So there was a delay in case of the SSC in submission of the return. Okay. Then section 84. Section 84 means best judgment assessment. If you go through the book, that means the Income Tax Ordinance 1984, a special section has been given, which is section 84. That means assessment could be completed under section 84. It is not necessary always that assessment could be completed by section 83.2, but sometimes assessment could also be completed under section 84 in case the SSC does not comply with the notices served on him. That means he might have submitted a return, but he did not comply with the notice under section 93(1), sorry, 79 and 83(1) issued by the SSC. So it means that he did not comply with the requirements. In that case, the DCT could complete the assessment under section 84. 84 means in the absence of the assessment, and which is called ex parte assessment, or it could be said assessment on the best judgment of the DCT. So when the assessment is made, there is a likelihood that the assessment could be on the whim of the DCT. On the whim of the DCT means the assessment could be made by him whimsically, without any basis, or it could not be of any natural justice. Meaning that, for example, an SSC was assessed for the assessment year 2021 on an income of taka 30 lakhs. That means his total income was assessed at taka 30 lakhs by the DCT. After examination of all the documents, evidences, etc., submitted by the SSC, and the DCT, sorry, the SSC accepted it. He did not file any appeal against the order of the DCT. And this year, that is assessment year 21-22, the SSC did not submit the return, or the SSC submitted the return, but he did not comply with the notices served on him under section 79 and 83(1). And hearing notices were given by the DCT in order to appear before him, but he did not comply. So under those circumstances, the DCT could complete the assessment under section 84, saying that the SSC has not complied with the notices served on him under section so and so, and afterwards the notices issued to him for hearing. So he can say that, okay, the SSC did not comply with the notices, he did not appear before me, so that's why the income which was calculated for the previous assessment year at taka 30 lakhs could be enhanced by another 30 lakh. That means the total income could be assessed on taka 60 lakhs for this assessment year. So if the assessment is made like that, it means that assessment is not made on best judgment. It has been made whimsically without any basis. So this is not natural justice done to the SSC. This is not a judicious assessment. Judicious assessment should be made by the DCT, even if the SSC does not appear before him. So the essence of section 84 is that judicious assessment has to be made by the DCT, even if the SSC does not comply with the notices served on him under section 79 and 83(1). Okay, now the question is, if the DCT does not do that, that means if he makes the assessment without any basis, it will be treated as a harassment, and it will be treated as an assessment made against natural justice. And in that circumstances, the National Board of Revenue can take administrative action against the DCT. It will be treated as a misconduct. So misconduct means, in case of a government servant, if it is misconduct, it means that his promotion may be hampered. He may not be given any increment. He may not be given any other benefit by the government. His increments could be held up, something like that. Well, these are actually administrative actions to be taken against the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes by the National Board of Revenue. So let us see what is said
in section 84. So 84, best judgment assessment. Where any person fails to file the return required by a section under section 77 and has not filed a return or revised return under section 78, or to comply with the requirements of a notice under section 79 or 80, or to comply with the requirements of a notice under section 83(1). So if there are non-compliance, like we have mentioned here, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes shall, by an order in writing, assess the total income of the assessee to the best of his judgment and determine the sum payable by the assessee on the basis of such assessment. So this is more important to remember, that to the best of his judgment. It should be to the best of his judgment. And communicate such order to the assessee within 30 days next following. So whenever the assessment has been completed by the DCT under section 84, the assessment order, that is IT 88, IT 15, and Challan, etc., those have to be communicated to the assessee within 30 days time. That is the requirement. And afterwards, it has been said, where in the opinion of the board, a best judgment assessment made by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes under subsection 1 shows lack of proper evaluation of legal and factual aspects of the case, which has resulted in an arbitrary and injudicious assessment. Action leading to such assessment made by the said Deputy Commissioner of Taxes shall be construed as misconduct, as we have discussed it before. So whenever the board comes to know that the assessment has been completed without judicious manner or without evaluating the facts and circumstances of the assessee properly, so the board can treat the action of the DCT as misconduct. And whenever the board treats it as misconduct, it means that the assessee could be taken to task. Could be taken to task means administrative action, as I have told you before, could be taken against him. So what are the administrative actions? I have mentioned some of them. His increment could be held up. His promotion could be held up, or he may be deprived of some other benefits of the government, like that. He may be transferred, he may be suspended, or he might be an officer of, he might be made an officer on duty. Officer on duty means he does not have any function to perform. So he will be without any function. So like that. So this is all about 84, section 84. You should remember section 84. And afterwards, section 93. So next, section 93, we just touched this point before. So 93 means income escaping assessment. That means whenever income has been escaped from assessment. I have not shown my income. I am earning from a particular source of income, but I haven't shown it. I haven't submitted the return to the DCT. So what happens then? Yes, maybe I am avoiding taxes, or I am escaping taxes, escaping assessments, but maybe in future, maybe after 10 years, the DCT would be able to know that I had a particular source of income in a particular year. Say, for example, the DCT of a particular circle, he comes to know that gentleman of under his jurisdiction, he earned an income of taka 50 lakhs as a speculative income in the year 82-83. So this has come to his notice now, not before. So since it was not known to anybody and the SSC did not submit the return to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes that time, he escaped the assessment. He did not pay taxes on that. So this Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, since he has known it from any source, he will just issue a notice under Section 93 asking the SSC to submit the return for that assessment year, that is 82-83. So you may be asked to answer whether the DCT is justified or is authorized by the income tax ordinance to issue a notice under Section 93(1), even for the assessment year 82-83. Such a question may be set in the examination. The answer would be yes, because we know that whenever an income has escaped assessment, the return has not been submitted by the SSC and no assessment was made. So if the SSC fulfills these two conditions, so these two conditions have to be known to you. You have to remember all these two conditions. Number one, the return was not submitted by the SSC. And number two, assessment was not completed by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So then, notice under Section 93(1) could be issued anytime. So there is no time limitation. As I said to you that this income was earned by the SSC for the assessment year 82-83. Yes, even then the notice could be issued. But another question may arise, whether notice under Section 93 could be issued or notice under Section 34 could be issued under the Income Tax Act 1922, because that time Income Tax Ordinance was in use, not in existence. That time the Income Tax Act was in existence. So that's why notice under Section 34 could be issued. Notice under Section 34 and notice under Section 93 are the same. So no problem, this could be issued and tax assessment could be made and tax could be realized. So that is the answer. And again, assessment under Section 93 could be made whenever it has been found that return has not been submitted by the SSC, but assessment has been completed. And if it comes to the knowledge of the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes that some incomes escaped the assessment, in that case, notice could be issued within 6 years from the end of the assessment year, relevant assessment year. So within 6 years' time, another notice could be issued by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes under Section 93(1). That is possible. And in other circumstances as well, a notice under Section 93(1) could be issued within 6 years from the end of the assessment year. So it is relating to escaping of income. So we have to consider that. But whenever 93 has been issued to the SSC and the inspecting Joint Commissioner of Taxes or inspecting Additional Commissioner of Taxes finds that the assessment was erroneous or mistaken, that means the DCT could not do proper assessment because of lack of knowledge or something else. In that case, that assessment could be revised by the inspecting Joint Commissioner of Taxes, although 93 was issued. It does not mean that whenever 93 is issued, this assessment could not be revised by the inspecting Joint Commissioner or inspecting Additional Commissioner of Taxes. It could be revised. I think we have covered the synopsis and the sections mentioned in the synopsis. But I will advise you to go through all the sections we have discussed tonight. If you go through the Income Tax Ordinance 1984 properly, then you will be able to conceptualize everything in a very proper way or effective manner, I would say. If you have any question, you can ask me a question. Otherwise, we can stop here. Anybody? A question? In that case, I understand that you have understood everything. And we can call it a day today. That means this evening. And I hope to see you maybe in the next class if there is any. Over. I thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you, sir.